have two items on the agenda this morning. Item number one is the approval of the January 2020 monthly Rule 45 report for the committee. Do I have any questions from my colleagues regarding item number one? Do we have any witnesses for item number one? Great. Do I have a motion on item number one? Moved by Alderman Silverstein, Co-Chairman, Vice Chairman Silverstein, on item number one, recommending approval of the January 2020 monthly Rule 45 report. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? In the opinion of the chair, the ayes have it. Item number two on our agenda today is an ordinance concerning an amendment to the annual appropriation ordinance year 2020 within Fund Number 925 for the Office of the Mayor, the Department of Housing, the Department of Public Health, the Department of Assets, Information and Services, the Mayor's Office for People with Disabilities, and the Department of Fire. Do I have a motion to accept the substitute motion? Motion made by Alderman Tunney to accept the substitute ordinance. The substitute ordinance will be explained by the Deputy Budget Director, Latoya Vaughn. We also have representatives from the departments to answer any questions you may have. The substitute ordinance adds 7 grants to the Chicago Department of Police, 1 grant for the Mayor's Office, and 1 grant from the Department of Family and Support Services for a total of $5,615,000. Ms. Vaughn.
Good morning, Chairman Dowell and the members of this committee. My name is Latoya Vaughn. I'm with the Office of Budget and Management, and I'm here to present the 925 grant ordinance amendments, along with the City Department representatives who will be available if you have any additional questions. The Office of the Mayor is requesting $244,000 for the Violence Prevention and Street Intervention Planning Program. These are funds from the Illinois Criminal Justice Information Authority. These funds will be used to support violence prevention planning activities, which will entail convening a committee of stakeholders comprised of city, county, and state government, service providers, faith leaders, advocates, philanthropists, and individuals with lived experience. The committee will form subcommittees focused around 4 topics: gun violence, domestic violence, diversion programs, and victim compensation services. The work will be guided by data which will focus on community input. Each subcommittee will be responsible for ultimately making recommendations which will be incorporated in the final work product, and a written violence prevention plan will be publicly available. The Office of the Mayor is requesting $8,000 for the Youth Commission program funded through the One Chicago Fund. Funds will be used to support the inaugural class of the Mayor's Youth Commission, which is comprised of 25 members representing 23 neighborhoods across Chicago. To date, the Mayor's Youth Commission organized Chicago's first ever youth budget town hall, provided strategic feedback to the Mayor's Education and Human Service team, and represented the Mayor's Youth Commission at the community meetings across the city. In its first year, the Mayor's Youth Committee will create a charter, advise the Mayor's out-of-school time strategy, and collect feedback from young people around the city to inform policy decisions. Each of the youth commissioners will receive a stipend of $500 for participating in the program. These funds will provide funding for the first installment, and additional funds will be used towards the second installment. The balance will be paid from the One Chicago Fund. The Department of Housing is requesting $777,000 for the foreclosure prevention program from the Illinois Housing Development Authority. These funds will be used to provide assistance for homeowners experiencing hardship and possible foreclosure on their property. Funds are derived from foreclosure filing fees paid from the foreclosure plaintiffs to the respective county clerk. To date, this program has served 183,273 clients. The Department of Public Health is requesting $75,000 for the Caravan Blue Cross program. These are private funds from the Blue Cross and Blue Shield of Illinois. Funds will be used to cover overtime expenses of the public health nurses. The purpose of this program is to provide disease prevention and management education for Chicago residents with a strong emphasis on nutritional education and supporting safe environments throughout the city of Chicago. The Department of Public Health is requesting to allocate or reallocate $485,000. This is allocating money to the Department of Assets and Information Services. These are federal dollars that are coming from the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, and the program is for the Public Emergency Preparedness Program. The amendment is requesting to reallocate funds to the Department of Asset Information and Services to provide information and technical support for the Public Health Emergency Preparedness Program. The Public Health Emergency Preparedness Program provides funding for strengthening preparedness and response capabilities to prevent and reduce morbidity and mortality. To offset that request, the Department of Asset and Information Services is requesting to accept $485,000 from the Chicago Department of Public Health for the Public Health Emergency Preparedness Program. Those are federal dollars coming from the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services. And once again, that amendment is just to reallocate funds from the Department of Health to the new Department of Asset and Information Services. The Mayor's Office for People with Disabilities is requesting $3,000 in additional private funds for the Mayor's Office of People with Disabilities private grant program. These are funds received from Access Chicago. Funds will provide support for the biannual expo at Navy Pier, which provides product and services to people with disabilities in recognition of the Americans with Disability Act. The Mayor's Office for People with Disabilities is requesting an additional $6,000 of federal pass-through grant funds for the Substance Abuse and AIDS Prevention for the Hearing and Impaired Program. These are federal grant funds from the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services through the Illinois Department of Human Services. Funds will be used to provide substance abuse prevention services to deaf and hearing and the hard of hearing youth in order to reduce alcohol, marijuana, and other drug use. This program will conduct 50 presentations to schools and agencies and will serve 600 participants. The Department of Family and Support Services is requesting $337,000 for this in-state and new state funds for the Senior Benefits Access Application Program. These are funds from the Illinois Department on Aging. Funds will be used to provide information and assistance services with completing applications to qualify seniors and people with disabilities for the Regional Transportation Authority's free transit ride and the Illinois Secretary of State's license plate discount program. Seniors can access services at room 11 at City Hall, Central West, Southeast, Southwest, Northeast, Northwest Senior Services, as well as community events. The Chicago Police Department is requesting $260,000 in new federal pass-through grant funds for the Chicago Southside Early Diversion Program. These are funds from the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services through the Cook County government. These funds are aimed at diverting and preventing people with serious mental illness and substance abuse disorder or co-occurring disorder who have experienced or are at high risk of experiencing mental health crisis from detention, connecting them to community-based behavioral health treatment and services. The Chicago Southside Early Diversion Program will become active in the Chicago Police Department Districts 4, 5, 6, 7, and 22, and other areas around the south side of Chicago. In this partnership with the Cook County Health and Hospital System, CPD will provide a total of 10 crisis intervention trainings for police officers annually, create and distribute its own printed resource materials and the CPD streaming video for roll call at its CIT program, and seek to reduce frequency and severity of mental health related calls for services by proactively connecting individuals in crisis to treatment through mental health transports, home visits with law enforcement and community triage centers and mental health professionals for the purpose of assessment and linkages for individuals with serious mental illness, substance abuse disorder, or co-occurring disorders who are at risk of justice involvement. The Chicago Police Department is requesting new federal grant funds in the amount of $1,196,000 for the Comprehensive Opioid Abuse Site-Based Program. It's from the U.S. Department of Justice. These funds will be used to expand and systematize the pre-arrest deflection of nonviolent individuals experiencing addiction away from arrest into community-based substance use disorder and behavioral health treatment, and to other needs of social services. This project will expand CPD's District 11 deflection pilot program. In 2016, in response to the opioid overdose crisis, the CPD Bureau of Organized Crime worked with the Chicago High-Density Drug Trafficking Area and the University of Chicago Crime Lab and Health Lab to design and test an innovative diversion strategy in the 11th District named the Westside Narcotics Diversion and Treatment Initiative. That pilot focused on disrupting drug markets associated with violence, identifying struggling addicts caught up in the enforcement effort who were committing low-level drug crimes to support their addiction. The pilot effort screened and diverted dozens of individuals from prosecution to inpatient and outpatient services. In the pilot program's first 46 weeks, 172 individuals have been deflected from charging into treatment. The Chicago Police Department is requesting $125,000 in new federal pass-through grant funds for the Improving Criminal Justice Response to Domestic Violence, Dating, and Stalking Program. These are funds received from the United States Department of Justice through the Cook County government. These funds will be used to create 6 new soft interview rooms across the 5 Chicago Police Department detective areas. CPD will outfit each room with the equipment and technology required for the investigation and charging of certain offenses, such as sexual assault. This includes digital recording equipment and licensing to facilitate the recording of victims and witness statements in an environment where the victim feels physically and emotionally safe. The Chicago Police Department is requesting $23,000 of new federal pass-through grant funds for the initiated research and evaluation of firearm violence program. This is from the U.S. Department of Justice through the Research Foundation. These funds will be used to support a study primarily focused on the functionality of the gunshot detection technology. The gunshot detection technology is an innovative solution that has been implemented in over 100 cities and police departments across the U.S. in high crime areas to prevent shootings and homicides. The study will test whether this technology is effective in aiding the prevention of gun crime on the scene and on-the-scene evidence collection, or simply detecting gunshots accurately. This study will highlight the importance of new technology to solve crime and promote public safety. The Chicago Police Department is requesting $111,000 for the Justice Reinvestment Initiative. These are funds from the U.S. Department of Justice through the Cook County government. These funds will be used to purchase 3 police observation device cameras with license plates readers in the 11th District. CPD will contract with Motorola through the Office of Emergency Management and Communication to purchase the police observation devices. During one 7-day period in 2018, over 85 people were shot in the city of Chicago. Nearly 30% of those shootings took place in the 11th District, which is why this community was selected. The PODs will be monitored with the Chicago Police Department's Strategic Decision Support Center located in the 11th District. The centers are each staffed by the district intelligence officers who coordinates the information directly to the patrol units in the field. The 11th District Strategic Decision Support Center room has drastically improved the response time to 911 calls. The overarching goal of this program is to combat the increased violence currently plaguing the 11th District. The Chicago Police Department is requesting new federal grant funds in the amount of $825,000 for the Law Enforcement-Based Victim Specialist Program. This is funded through the U.S. Department of Justice. Funds will be used to strengthen Chicago's network of victim services by providing help to victims of non-fatal shootings. The funds will provide assistance to victims to help them recover physically, emotionally, and financially from violence. The program is intended to improve community trust and overall safety in the community by addressing victim services and assessing gaps. This pilot will serve the 7th and 10th District. The Chicago Police Department is requesting $33,000 in new state grant funds from the Illinois Criminal Justice Information Authority. These funds will be used to purchase equipment for the Gang Resistance and Education and Training Program, after-school program, and summer programs, and to furnish 6 soft interview rooms to be located across 5 police areas. All equipment and furnishing must be purchased within a 6-month period, and that period is January 1st through June 30th. The Gang Resistance and Education and Training Program is an evidence-based national and international gang and violence prevention program that has been building trust between law enforcement and communities for almost 30 years. It introduces students to the gang resistance education and training skills and concepts, and will begin the process of behavior and attitude change. CPD's GREAT program hosts many community events and partners with the Chicago Park District for outdoor events, often in multiple locations across the city. The equipment will allow for improved interaction at large events. The Chicago Fire Department is requesting additional federal grant funds in the amount of $6,000 for the Port Security Grant Program. These are funds received from the U.S. Department of Homeland Security. Funds will be used to conduct training and for the refurbishment and life extension of Engine 2, which is CPD's fire and rescue vessel. The Chicago Fire Department serves as a primary agency for mass casualty search and rescue, emergency medical services, and fire suppression operations for any type of marine emergency, national and accidental or intentional, including terrorism incidents. To respond to threats to the water system and to restore waterways back to normal, the Chicago Fire Department, whether they are a part of the Air and Sea Rescue Unit, Hazardous Materials Team, or other CFD units, members must maintain the highest level of preparedness and be trained, certified, and equipped to perform specialized rescue operations both in the Chicago River and Lake Michigan to ensure CFD's core mission of saving lives are fulfilled. The Port Security Program focuses on building response capabilities by supporting effective planning, training, and equipment for CPD's Special Operations Team. The Chicago Fire Department is requesting additional federal grant funds in the amount of $1,586,000 for the Securing the City program. These are from the U.S. Department of Homeland Security. The Securing the Cities program is managed and led by the Chicago Fire Department Homeland Security Division in coordination with the Chicago Police Department and other principal partners, including the Chicago Office of Emergency Management and Communications, the Cook County Sheriff's Office, and the Illinois State Police, as well as the Illinois Emergency Management Agency. The purpose of the Securing the City program is to build technological capabilities for specialized teams and frontline members throughout the region to detect unregulated hazardous materials at the City of Chicago's special events such as parades, festivals, and venues, as well as along roadway, light and heavy rail, and maritime pathways, including the Chicago River and the Lake Michigan. That concludes all of our amendments for the 925 grant programs totaling $5,615,000.
Thank you, Ms. Vaughn. I want to call to everyone's attention the list of the youth commissioners from the Youth Commission grant for the Office of the Mayor that Ms. Vaughn spoke of, and also the list of participants for the Violence Prevention and Street Incarceration Planning Committee. They're located on page 15. And then finally, on page 3, the list of those organizations that will be receiving funding to do foreclosure prevention as a delegate agency. We'll open it up for questions, starting with Alderman Sposato.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Ms. Vaughn, for your report. I'm not sure that you'd be the person to ask this question to. It may be the chairman, it may be law. I'm a little confused about what I see as a bit of a contradiction in here. I certainly think this is a good thing, but on the substitute ordinance, on the whereases, on the fourth one, I'll read to you what it says. It says the city, through the Department of Housing, has been awarded additional state grant funds in the amount of $777,000 by the Illinois Housing Development Authority, which shall be used for foreclosure prevention program. And then if you go to the appropriation amendment on page 3, program descriptions, funds will be used to provide assistance for homeowners experiencing hardship and possible foreclosure on their property. So to me, prevention is we're educating people on, 15, 20 years ago, we had people buying houses that couldn't afford them, that don't no money down, that kind of stuff. So this is telling me prevention, and then this is telling me if you get jammed up, we're going to give you money to bail you out. So I don't know if you're the one that could answer that question, or is law here or somebody to explain to me, or am I reading it wrong?
So We have to follow up with you. I have to reach out to the Department of Housing to ask if that is for prevention or just counseling. So can I follow up and get back to
Yeah,
the chair?
absolutely, no problem. It just
Well,
seemed
we
like.
need to do this while we have this before us today. Yes, Alderman Irvin. Is this a point of information? Because
Yes, it is. I have some familiarity with their program, and they're basically the same thing. They're doing the same thing based on that, because I've had some people that have worked in that program, and it's essentially the same thing. So, I mean, I think it's more semantics than anything. I don't think we need to hold that up for.
I have no intention of holding up, but it says something different. I may certainly support it, and you certainly don't have to worry about me, trying to hold this up, but I just see prevention, it says on the one spot.
we will try to get an answer for you
Okay.
before the
All right.
meeting ends.
Thank you.
We have someone here from the-
One.
We need to know before we end. Do you need a phone? What do you need? Alderman Osterman?
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Quick overview question. These are a series of grants that are coming from the state or federal government. How often, and just more information to me as a member, are we going to do this probably 3 or 4 times throughout the course of the year, or is this kind of one time annually?
No, this happens multiple times throughout the year. Whenever the city receives a grant, they come to the Budget Committee.
Got it. I appreciate the list of the Youth Commission. It seems to be a diverse group from across the city, which I think is important. The one question I have relates to the new Violence Prevention and Street Intervention Program planning. The one question relates to when do we expect the findings of that group?
So we do have Angie Weiss here with the mayor's office. She can speak to the deliverables of that report.
Hi, I'm Angie Weiss, Senior Advisor for Public Safety in the Mayor's Office. So under the grant fund requirements, we're required to produce a violence prevention report as the final product, which is due at the end of July. So it will become a public-facing document around July 31st.
Okay. I saw the list of the members, which is a pretty distinguished group of people that focus on violence prevention citywide. The one request I would have, though, is that you consider having members of City Council on the subcommittees, or offer that. There's 4 subcommittees: violence prevention, domestic violence, diversion programs, and victim compensation. There's many members who deal with that on a day-to-day basis, and I'm not asking myself to be on it, but I think ultimately whatever that planning group comes up with is going to develop public policy or funding that we're going to have to vote on. I think having some city council members on those subcommittees would kind of help that, so that we're part of that process on a day-to-day basis. So with that, thank you.
Thank you, Alderman Osterman. We will get back to you through the chair with a response from the mayor's office on this. Alderman Scott.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Good morning. So for the back to the Youth Commission, how long does that program last? How long is it? Is it a year-round program? And I see that the stipend is in different parts. So when is it allocated, and how long is the program?
So JD from the mayor's office can speak to that. Mr. Slike.
Hello, my name's JD. I'm with the community engagement team in the mayor's office. So when we were onboarding the first cohort of the youth commissioners, we said that this was a one-year term. However, one of the things that we're working on is having the youth commissioners develop their own charter. And so we're going to be finalizing it in this month's meeting. So that might change, but what was communicated to them up front was that this is a one-year term.
And one-year term, stipend in two parts. How are they chosen? How are they, because I don't see a lot of schools from the west side of Chicago. So how are they chosen?
Yes, so for the first cohort, we wanted to make sure that we had the group up and running before the budget process. So we did focus groups with youth involved in the Mayor's Transition Committee and opened that up as well to young people around Chicago. We also did a survey just to get some preliminary feelings on that. After that, we brainstormed a list of organizations that had existing youth council structures and asked that each of them nominate one youth participant to join the youth commission. For the second cohort, though, the youth commissioners themselves are going to be deciding on the selection process, and so that's going to be finalized in the charter this month as well.
Okay, I'd just like to know, with those young people, how they're choosing. I'd like to have some folks from the west side of Chicago kind of involved in this, and so I just think that would be a great thing. That's all that I have for them. I have another question for you, though. The Justice Reinvestment Initiative, the one that's in 11, do we know, because 11's pretty big, and it covers 28, 27, I think a little bit of 37 and 24. Do we know, one, is this a pilot program, and if it is successful, are they going to expand? And then two, do we know kind of where they're going to do the cameras? And I know you probably can't give me specifics, because I don't need specifics, but kind of area-wide. Do we know that?
So we have Cheryl with the Chicago Police Department who can speak to that.
Hold on a second. I would like for you, Ms. Vaughn, or whoever, to answer Alderman Scott's question first, and then we'll go to Alderman Spizzato, back to Alderman Spizzato's question. Irma, no. Fiddles?
Thank you. Good morning.
Morning.
The 11th District POD program was a brainchild of the Cook County State's Attorney's Office. They asked CPD to partner with them following that weekend of violence in that community. The POD placement is up to the commander within that district who has the information on where the pods are and where there might be a need.
And
Excuse me, Alderman Scott. Could you please identify yourself for the record?
My apologies. Cheryl Robinson, Chicago Police Department.
And is this a pilot program? And if it is successful, do we know if it is going to be expanded? I know that if we're able to catch these license plates and we're able to secure some of these people, are we thinking about expanding it? Because I think that would be a great tool in the toolbox for the police department.
Alderman, that's a little bit out of my scope. I do understand that there are pods across the city. How many are equipped with license plate readers, I do not know, but I can get that information and get back to you.
If you could, through the chair, that would be great.
Sure.
Last question, Madam Chair, or do you want to go to?
No,
Okay.
finish your line of questioning, Alderman
right.
Scott.
So the Chicago Southside Early Diversion Program, why just concentrated on the South Side?
Could you refer, what page are you referring to?
6,
for-
the last one on 6, page 6.
Who can
And
speak?
that'll be Cheryl again with Chicago Police Department. Or Lieutenant Ursetti.
Good morning. I'm Antoinette City, the Crisis Intervention Team Program Coordinator at the Chicago Police Department. Districts 4, 5, 6, 7, and 22 are all listed in our department directive on approved medical facilities to transport to the Roseland Community Triage Center at 200 East 115th Street. So all of these districts are in proximity to the facility that's involved in the grant.
I think the question, Lieutenant, was, is this program just concentrated on the south side? I recall that this program may already be existing on the west side. Is that true?
That is a distinct initiative with the West Side Community Triage and Wellness Center, and the districts that currently are transporting to that location are 10, 11, 14, 15, and 25. So this is a distinct initiative that is concentrating on the south side, but we're pleased to see that this is occurring in other areas of the city, namely on the west side at those districts I just mentioned.
Thank you very much. Thank
You
you, Madam
guys had
Chair.
it first.
I appreciate it. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Alderman Scott. We'll go back to Alderman Sposado's question. Alderman Sposato, would you repeat your question for Irma, who is here from the Department of Planning and Development?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Okay, Irma, where you at, Irma? Raise your hand.
Right here.
I like looking at, oh, sorry, Irma, okay, okay. All right, so here's my question. I see a bit of a contradiction that I don't understand. I'm asking for a clarification. The substitute ordinance on the number 4, whereas, and then the appropriation amendment on page 3, so I see a contradiction. So, whereas the city, through its Department of Housing, has been awarded additional state grant funds in the amount of $777,000 by the Illinois Housing Development Authority, which shall be used for foreclosure prevention program. Okay, so I understand that 100%. Then, on page 3 of the appropriation amendment, right at the top, program descriptions, funds will be used to provide assistance for homeowners experiencing hardship and possible foreclosures on their property. So to me, prevention is we're going to educate you. If everybody remembers 15, 20 years ago, people were buying houses they couldn't afford. To me, prevention would be they're going to educate you on not buying a house that you can't afford. Assistance to me means, okay, you got in a jam, you're short, you can't pay it, we're going to give them money to pay it. So can you clarify the difference between, I look at them as two distinct differences, and I'm looking for clarification on that.
For the record, Irma Morales, Deputy Commissioner for Department of Housing. Good morning. Alderman, yes, there is a distinction. The funds provided by IDA is for foreclosure prevention, and it is providing one-on-one assistance to the homeowner to identify their options available to them, and also provide post-purchase education to prevent individuals from getting into a foreclosure situation, such as education with their homeowners insurance, making sure that they're getting all of their property taxes exemptions needed or available to them. So there is no direct grants or funds provided under this program to any of the homeowners. It's just the assistance so that they could do the loan modification directly with the lender if that is the need, or sitting down with them on a one-on-one or in a classroom setting.
Okay, I got it. So the first one and the substitute makes sense, but then the amendment doesn't make sense. So now you're gonna assist them by educating them when it's too late. We need to educate them before it gets to be too late.
Yeah, that's post-purchase education, and also one-on-one when they're already in a problem situation. They're doing both.
It says pre- and post-purchase counseling,
Okay,
Alderman.
okay.
Okay,
Thank you, Irma. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Alderman Burnett.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. So from what I understand, I know like NHS over in the west side, in West Humboldt Park area, when people when people do get into foreclosure, they find out they're in foreclosure, NHS gets with them, they educate them and tell them what all their options are, connect them with lawyers, connect them with different groups in order to help them to try to get out of foreclosure. Just because they're in foreclosure don't mean it's over. There's opportunities to get out of foreclosure, and these organizations help them to be able to get out of foreclosure. Sometimes they even go and sit down with the banks with them and try to work out something with them. So it's not too late just because they're in foreclosure. That's what I want to say.
That is correct.
Thank you, Alderman Burnett. Alderman Irvin. Alderman Moore.
Thank you, Chairman. First, before I get to the housing piece, the question that Alderman Scott brought up, I just want to make sure, again, this is why it's important that departments and people talk with electeds. Have you all heard of support group? Who's the young man that was talking in terms of the youth? And I'm sorry, the chairman has to identify you first. I'm sorry, Chairman.
JD Vance, like the Office of Community Engagement in the Mayor's Office.
All right. Have you ever heard of the support group? No, I don't think you have. So the support group, which has been ran by a gentleman by the name of Benny Henry for years, has, and every year they do a lunch and learn program, but not only do that program, throughout the year, they have youth ambassadors that have been working throughout the city of Chicago at many of our CPS schools. And I'm shocked that when we talk about organizations or people from that group, that I do not see the support group on there. I don't know if anybody else is going to be added, but I suggest somebody reach out to Benny Henry and the support group, because a lot of this stuff of what you're talking about trying to do with these youth, they've been doing it for years, and for them not to be a part of this is really shocking to me. And this is why it's critical that when the administration is doing things like this, they reach out to the alderman to ask if we have any input. So I strongly recommend you all reach out to them. All right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you so much. The next one is on this money for the housing piece. And as I'm looking here, I don't see any African-American organizations highly represented here. And when you throw in NHS, NHS is an all for everybody. Everybody go to NHS. And so I'm just really taking
Alderman Moore,
Yeah.
Partners in Community Building is an African-American organization
Where?
in Grand Boulevard, in my ward.
In your ward? Okay. I've never heard of them. And I see what the Resurrection Project, where's that in Pilsen, the Spanish Coalition, the Latin United Community, others that, and I have a Latin population in my ward, so I'm happy that those services will be getting to them. But for the African American group, I think we can do better there, because when I get these notices, and this is my question to you, when we get these notices about people in foreclosure, a lot of times we just call them when we get them from finance. We call them, let people, be aware, hey, how can we help? So you're saying that those people, we can refer to these organizations, correct?
Correct.
I can't hear you.
Correct.
Yeah, so when I'm doing that, and if there's nothing close by, because sometimes there's been in cases when I call NHS for things, they say, well, we've run out of money. You understand what I'm saying? Now, if NHS is the largest one, and I know they got 180 grand, that pot should be bigger, much bigger in my opinion, since it's a throw-in all, if you will. But I would love to see some more other African-American organizations over here, because people that's in foreclosure need to be get somewhere close in proximity to where they live to get these services, and I'm just not feeling we have enough of that here. So I just wanted to make that clear, and if we can somehow 777,000, is that the total? Or 1.3 million?
1.3 million is the total for the program.
Right.
These additional dollars that are being received are for 777.
Right, so 1.3 million in neighborhood housing service, 180,000, that's, I think we got to do better here in that respect. So I would like to see something different on this before Wednesday's vote, some change.
And they do.
Go ahead.
So I just want to mention that this program is complementary to the CDBG program. And so some of the same agencies get funded through that program as well. And I know we're working on an RFP to be released in May for this year, or of this year for January of 2021. So that'll be a new leg of the program where we have participants that are open for competitive RFP. So we'll be opening up the door for a lot of participants there. So.
All right. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you, Alderman Moore. So if you know of organizations in your area, you should encourage them to apply for the CDBG program. I believe Auburn Gresham, your development corporation, may already be a delegate agency, but there may be others, and you should probably encourage them to apply for the program, and then they can take advantage of these additional funds. She said May. Alderman Mitchell.
All right, thank you, Madam Chairman. Okay, this is actually going to piggyback on a couple of things that already been talked about. So with respect to the Youth Commission, huge concern there, because as I look at it, and in just a short period of time, a few colleagues just discussed, we need to, where to go? Some more clarity on the rhyme or reason behind this. Just by looking at it, I'm inferred that, and let's use Whitney, the very last one as an example. Whitney Young is on the west side, but then it says east side. So I'm assuming the east side means where the child is from or the student is from. That's a good inference. That's fair.
I will refer to Mr. Slike. He's responsible for this program, and so he can speak to the addresses of the committee members.
Come on up, young man.
Yes, so on the document that
Excuse
you
me,
have,
could you identify yourself again for the record?
apologies. Yeah, this is Jay Van Slyke from the community engagement team in the mayor's office. Yeah, the neighborhood refers to their address, and then the school is what school they go to.
Wait, say that again?
The neighborhood on the document refers to their address.
Okay. All right. So when you bring, it's two things. One, budget and community engagement. When you bring things like that to us, you should automatically know that we're going to lobby for our respective neighborhoods to be represented, which I think is fair. So I would like a couple of things. One, I've never really, as Department of Community Engagement, I've never engaged with that department. So I don't know how you guys are engaging with anything in my neighborhood, and I would like to on the record, that needs to change. Two, there's multiple schools listed on here. Even though you're citing neighborhoods, I think by you guys saying there's 23 different neighborhoods, I don't think this is a good representation, personally. And I would actually, not to take up a lot of time, I will speak to you offline, but I think in the future, when you start talking about community engagement, then come in asking and talking about budget numbers, this needs to be outlined very clear, and our neighborhoods need to be represented to our satisfaction. I'll speak for myself, I won't be supporting any of this. I think it's a good effort, but I think there needs to be more care taken in representing our neighborhoods, whether it be our schools or age or whatever. So I would like to work with you to change that.
Yep, and I just want to mention that we are going to be doing a citywide application process for the second cohort, and so I can commit to working with you and all of your offices and making sure that information about the application process for the next cohort gets out to your constituents. And yes, I would love to meet with you offline about this.
Okay. the next thing,
Excuse me, Alderman Mitchell, when does the next cohort start, Mr. Van Slyke?
So we're going to be finalizing the application process with the charter review this month. But the next cohort is going to be starting in July with training with this cohort. And we anticipate the application process happening in April and May of this year.
Thank you. Alderman Mitchell?
thank you for asking that question. The pod cameras, I understand that it's with the grant and everything. 75% of my ward is in the, who do I speak to about that? You? About okay. 75% of my ward is in the 4th district. I've had conversations with the commander, superintendent about that, and I've been instructed that if I wanted additional pod cameras, that I have to pay for them. So, which in certain cases, you know, I represent my constituency, so I don't really, if I have to do it, I'll do it. But I want to work with whomever I can to, if there's, after this grant, other grants to locate positions in my ward in the 4th and 3rd districts where, you know, I can potentially have other cameras. And when you guys say, I understand that the reason was because of the 30% shootings, that's, if going to my constituents and say, well, oh, we only had 5% versus 30 and we can't get these, that doesn't fly. You know, so we can't really in our respective wards say, oh, well, the 11 got it because they had 30% and we didn't get anything or attention because we didn't have 30%. They want to feel safe and everything. So we need to figure something out to kind of spread that out and not always be so, I understand we got 30% is a high number, but the statistics, my constituents don't care about those statistics. You know, we need, you know, I've got like 3 or 4 locations where I'm constantly, constituents constantly talk about me putting additional cameras there. So I want to,
The Chicago Police Department rep can speak a little bit more to it, but I think these funds were directed more from the grantor in that area. And this was direct from the Cook County State's Attorney's Office. So I believe that they had a directive for it to go in that, and they can speak to how, maybe how that area was selected by a State's Attorney's Office, but a lot of times those funds are received for specific areas based on, you know, pre-existing need.
well, I'm okay with that. I'm talking about going forward. Because, yeah, there's like 4 locations in the 4th district alone that I'm already sitting on my desk contemplating spending money to help out with that effort. If there's money available that, you know, it can help me do that, then I want to be privy to that and work with whomever I need to.
Alderman Mitchell, do you have a contact, or can we get a contact from the police department here today that can make that connection for the alderman?
Cheryl, will you be the contact? I'll provide Cheryl's contact information. They apply for new grants all the time, so this could be a new effort. We'll work with them on that.
Okay, okay.
Point of information, Alderman Villegas?
Madam Chair, could she provide that contact information to all the members?
Absolutely.
My last thing is about the foreclosure. Just more information, give us information on who we can direct. Just last year alone, I mean, I get an average of 500 foreclosures a year. And, you know, people come to my office and we try to send them to the places that advertise in my office. Only 1 or 2 of these on this list I even know about coming to my office. So I want to make sure I have that information.
Irma Morales is an
Yeah.
excellent contact in the Department of Planning on housing and foreclosure issues, and I would make use of her if you can.
Okay, will do. Thank you.
Alderman Wagasback.
Thank you, Chairman Dowell. I'll actually hold my question for Ms. Robinson and the police department until later. It's about a broader issue of the cameras. Thank you.
Okay, is Alderman Urban back? Alderman Mitz.
Madam Chairman, Madam Chairman, I have to agree with my colleagues when it comes to the foreclosure prevention program. when we see the disparity in the city, and housing is a big issue in my area, we do have neighborhood housing service there, but, and I have also worked with Ms. Deborah, the director of housing, as well as Mr. Goin. They're doing a wonderful job, but they work all over the city. The problem is the ones, as blacks, they sometimes want to be able to meet with a black counselor, counseling, and we need to have that in our community so that people would be able to relate to their own in order to talk about how to save these homes. We are funding organizations over and over again, the same ones who've already been getting funding. How about taking care of those who have not? And when you say create a program, who is it from the department that's working on those issues? And I know you see the disparity. If you don't, I'd be happy to have you ride through the area to see the need, the neglect, and before you continue to move forward and not having the black participation here, I think it's injustice to us. And I also wanted to talk a little bit about the opium addiction. So from someone from housing, I'm gonna have someone reach out to me from your department, because I definitely want to, and I've been talking about it for a long time. I haven't just started this.
Irma has gone back upstairs to
That's
the
quite all
Department
right.
of Planning and Development.
That's all right, I'll reach out to her. I have
Okay,
her.
great. One thing you could do, Alderman Mitz, is see if there are some other organizations within the Austin community that are not part of the Housing Department's programs, and try to get them to be able to not bid, but apply for the CDBG program next year to become a delegate agencies. And you might already have delegate agencies in Austin that are not part of this prevention program.
There is a Austin Coming Together program and in the Austin community, and they've been working on housing issues and working with the city as well. I'm just surprised to see that they're not here.
They're not there.
They're not there to continue further working to help people with their home with some resources from the city. I also wanted to mention regarding the opium addiction program. This program ran from the police department only? Is that who receiving the funds? I may have missed that portion.
Yeah, that is the Chicago Police Department's comprehensive opioid abuse site-based program. That's the $1,196,000, and that is run through the CPD.
Now, can you just give me because it's a big issue, and I want to make sure I know how to connect the community to the program.
We'll have Cheryl speak to how you can get service connections within your community.
And Madam Chairman, I apologize if this was mentioned already.
No, it wasn't, Alderman Mitz.
Thank you.
Good morning again. Cheryl Robinson, Chicago Police Department. The Comprehensive Opioid Abuse Site-Based Program is an extension of a pilot program that started in the 11th District in 2016.
That wasn't her question, Ms. Robinson.
The question was, how are the program going to be administered from the police department? And if you can go step by step for me a minute, what are your thoughts? Since nobody asked us what our thoughts was, and we're dealing with opiate addiction every day. I think, and we're talking about a program where we're spending tax dollars, and we want to work the community engagement with the police. We're trying to bring that back. And we have a program here just simply for the police. Now, how the community going to connect with the police with the program?
Again, Alderman, this was a program that started as a pilot in 2016.
Okay.
It was a partnership between CPD's Bureau of Organized Crime, HIDIT, and University of Chicago Crime and Health Labs, trying to address the issue of opioid addiction in that community. With the success of that pilot program, in its first 46 weeks, 172 people were deflected in that program. Based on that success, Chicago Police Department wanted to expand this program to districts 10, 11, 15, and 25. We currently work with Thresholds, who assists us with the opioid addiction treatment program, as well as connecting individuals with other social services, including employment, housing, and so forth.
Alderman Mitz, you mind if I see if I can help you here?
Thank you, Madam Chairman.
Ms. Robinson, is it, I'm requesting that someone from the police department, along with the representatives from the project coordination team, meet with Alderman Mitz to discuss the program and explain how perhaps her office could work with you, since her office serves the 11th district.
And not only that, Madam Chairman, if I could just say, I'm just hearing funding, but I'm already planning on educational information, giving out kits, working with other agencies, and I didn't know that they had this, and I want to bring it together so that we can educate the public as well as the police using their resources to take care of opiate addiction. We as citizens need to know how to take care of opiate addiction. And I just want to bring all that together, but I need somebody to talk with me so we can connect.
I got that.
If the Alderman has a few minutes after
Yes.
session,
Thank you.
there's some additional information I can give you regarding walk-ins as well.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Robinson.
Thank you, Madam Chairman.
Thank you, Alderman Mitz. Alderman Thompson.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I wanted to follow up on something Alderman Osterman had asked in just the overview of this, where you had mentioned, Chair, that we'll come back a few times during the year and do these allocations. So to compare this allocation to last year, are these all recurring, or are there any new funds here?
So it's a combination of both. We do have new dollars that we received, like the CPD grant programs. A lot of those are new grants, but we do have some increased grant funding that we receive for existing programs.
So, and I apologize, so if it's described in the description, does it say if it's a renewal or a new grant?
It will say either it's additional or new.
So the only one that I see on here, and so the only other question I have is with DFSS, is the only grant that I see we have city employees. There's 3 positions there. And so from a funding standpoint, is that recurring? The concern being, obviously, if there are employees versus delegating that work.
In this instance, the department is anticipating to hire 3 positions, but it's really based on the volume that they get of applications.
And so is this a new program, or is that an existing?
This is a new program.
So that would be a new program, and then how long of a term is that funding? Is it a 1 year?
I'm going to reach out to, or Joyce can speak to that from DFSS.
Okay.
Joyce Gallagher, DFSS Senior Services. So Alderman, that is an ongoing program. The city provides the documentation for free rides and license plate reductions for seniors that are eligible. And we've been doing that work for the RTA for a number of years. This is the first time that it's going to be compensated. And it takes a large volume of time to serve, to find out the requirements and make sure that people are qualified for these benefits. So we are thinking that with this addition of funds, we'll be able to hire people to support the staff so that we can get back to, answering phone calls and doing the other jobs that we need to do under the existing grant from HHS. So this is new money that will support the work that we're doing to provide the free rides and the reduced license plate fares.
And Ms. Gallagher, do you know how long of a term this grant? Is it a one-year term?
Well, right now, it's part of the area plan from the Illinois Department on Aging. It really just went right back into our funding for the area plan. So it's not a full grant, it's just a supplement to the money that we already receive. So I don't think there'll be an end time for this, because if they're giving us $25 for each application, that should be ongoing, because the requirement to do the applications hasn't sunset. So as we was told, that we don't know how long we will be getting this money, due to the fact that it is tied to this benefit access, and so we will just have to wait and see going forward. But I can see your concern that if we are hiring staff with it and then it ends, that could be a problem. But, to this moment, we're hoping to hire staff. We haven't made that decision. But because there was a line in there that said anticipated staff, we put that number in there.
Okay, and then just not having the budget here with me, was that something your department had budgeted for when we approved the budget back in November?
Alderman, I would have to get back to the chair with
That's
that
fine.
answer.
We can get that. I hear what you're saying, and I think the concern I have is that if we're hiring staff, it's one thing when we're all these other grants where we can administer it, but when we bring on staff, that's an additional expense.
So this grant is new to the city. To Joyce's point, they have an existing program, but these funds are new funds, and they were not included in the annual appropriation ordinance, neither were the positions.
Okay. No further questions. Thanks, Chair.
Thank you, Alderman Thompson. We have one witness slip to speak to these items. George Blakemore. Oh, I'm sorry. Before Mr. Blakemore speaks, Alderman Osterman. You have other question, Alderman?
Official to the police department in OEMC to set up briefings with aldermen to talk about the technology in their communities. I think it's important that all the aldermen know what cameras, what types of cameras are in their wards. They want to help supplement them, or they want to think down the road about how to pay for more using other funds. I think it'd be important for everyone to do that. I think as we get towards the summer, it'd be good to know what that is, so that if people do want to use menu money towards license plate readers or upgraded cameras, so I think if the police department could take that back, I think that'd be a worthwhile endeavor. Thanks.
Thank you, Alderman Osterman. That's an excellent suggestion, and we will make that request as a committee to get that information back to each member of the council through the chair. Mr. Blakemore.
Yes, Chairman Dow. I'm appalled to accept one of these verbs here, and I didn't have that information. It wasn't accessible to me. It should be accessible to every citizen. I kept saying, I need this. I need to read this. I need to see this. If it's a substitute ordinance, the citizens has every right. I kept telling that young man, give me that material. So usually they have the backup material. You shouldn't have anything that I don't have. I'm not the enemy. You shouldn't have this without the citizens having a copy of this. This is dealing with money, and it's blood money, and going into the black community with high crime. We need to have this information. I kept asking the young man for this information. So next time when a citizen comes you should have it available to the citizens. You work for the citizens. You are servants of the citizens. You are not above the citizens. So I kept telling that young man, give me that. I want to read it. Dealing with money, blood money, and crime and violence in the black community. In particular with the police relation to the black community. They incarcerate our people. They medicate them. They experiment with them. And then they want to exterminate us with this money. You black people better wake up. This grant money is all about you. You are the big engine. They're making money off of us. They're using us. All about crime. And it's not crime in the white community, it's crime in the black community. And do you see anybody here? Do you see any participation? I want a copy of this. Maybe you won't give it. Is it a secret? Is it a secret? Is it a crime for me to be able to read this? Again, you all are being played on. You're not players. You're not players. And that grant money, they steal it and do everything. The county, the city, the state, all of them. It's about the money, but it's, at the end, it's about black lives.
Thank you, Mr. Blakemore. Do I have a motion on item number 2? Motion by Alderman Osterman, recommending do pass. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed? In the opinion of the chair, the ayes have it. All of the items today will be reported out at the full City Council meeting on February 19th. Do I have a motion to adjourn? So moved by Alderman Rodriguez. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? In the opinion of the chairs, the ayes have it. This concludes the meeting of the Committee on Budget and Government Operations. Meeting is adjourned. Have a good day.